Imagine living in a world where your home is your only protection from a brutal, unforgiving environment. A world where losing it means certain death. For hermit crabs, this isn't just a possibility, it's their daily reality. Unlike other crustaceans that grow their own protective armor, hermit crabs are born with soft, vulnerable bodies. The only thing standing between them and a grisly fate is an abandoned seashell. A mobile home they must constantly upgrade as they grow. But here's the catch. Suitable shells are rare, and competition is fierce. If a crab can't find a new home in time, it could become an easy meal for a hungry predator or dry out under the scorching sun. And when a crab stumbles upon an empty shell, there's no guarantee it'll be a perfect fit. So what happens when a crab finds a shell that's just a little too big? Instead of walking away, it does something surprising. It waits. This single decision will set off a chain reaction that turns an ordinary beach into a chaotic high-stakes real estate market. It all starts with a single hermit crab that has outgrown its shell. The once spacious home that protected it from danger has now become a suffocating prison. Its soft body is being squeezed from all sides, and even the smallest movement is uncomfortable. It's time to find a new home. As it scuttles across the sand, it searches for a shell that is just the right size. Not too big, not too small, but something it can grow into. Then, like a beacon of hope, it spots a new shell resting in the sand. There's just one problem. It's too big. The crab carefully inspects it, climbing over the smooth surface, feeling the weight of it. If it were to move in now, the shell would be impossible to carry, leaving it slow and defenseless. But instead of continuing its search, the crab makes a risky decision. It waits. It doesn't take long before other hermit crabs begin to arrive. Each one, like the first, is on a desperate search for a bigger home. They inspect the oversized shell, but it's still too large for them as well. However, instead of fighting or giving up, the crabs do something unexpected, something that seems almost strategic. They begin to measure each other up, sensing that they all need a new home. Then, in a moment of pure instinct-driven cooperation, they form an orderly queue. It's a sight rarely seen in the animal kingdom, a perfectly structured housing chain. The biggest crab stands at the front, the second biggest behind it, then the next, all the way down to the smallest at the very back. They're all waiting for the missing link. The one crab that can actually fit into the oversized shell. Because once that crab moves in, the entire chain will be set in motion. The crabs continue waiting, shifting restlessly in the sand. Each minute without a shell leaves them more exposed to predators lurking nearby. Birds, fish, and even larger crabs would love nothing more than to snatch up a defenseless hermit crab. But patience is key. Finally, after what seems like an eternity, the right-sized crab arrives. This newcomer inspects the large shell, hesitating for only a moment before making its move. It climbs inside, testing the fit, shifting back and forth before finally committing. It has found its new home. And then, like dominoes falling in perfect succession, the chain reaction begins. The biggest crab at the front immediately seizes the opportunity and moves into the newly vacated shell. The second crab follows suit, moving into the now empty shell left behind by the first. One by one, each crab shifts forward, each finding a slightly bigger home than before. It's a perfectly synchronized exchange, an unspoken agreement between creatures with no leaders, no rules, just pure survival instincts at play. For the smallest crab, the one that started this entire sequence, this is the moment it's been waiting for. It finally has a chance to move into a new, larger home, one that will keep it safe for weeks or even months to come. But just as the tiny crab reaches its long-awaited upgrade, disaster strikes. A newcomer, one that wasn't part of the original lineup, suddenly shoves its way in. It's a slightly bigger, stronger crab, one that isn't interested in waiting or following the unspoken order of the queue. With a forceful push, it steals the shell meant for the smallest crab, leaving it completely exposed. For a hermit crab, being shellless is a death sentence. With no armor to protect it, the tiny crab is now completely vulnerable. The tropical sun begins to dry out its soft body almost instantly. Every second without a shell increases the risk of dehydration, injury, or becoming food. The crab scuttles desperately across the sand, searching for anything that could offer protection. Then, finally, it spots something. A discarded shell lying nearby. But this one isn't much better than the home it just left behind. It's barely bigger than its previous shell. And worse, it's damaged. A gaping hole in the side makes it far from ideal. But the crab doesn't have the luxury of choice. It hurries inside, curling its body into the imperfect shell. It's not perfect, but it's better than nothing. This is the brutal reality of the hermit crab housing crisis. It's a world where strategy, patience, and sheer luck determine who gets a home and who gets left behind. Some crabs succeed, finding bigger and better shells that will keep them safe for months. Others lose out, forced to settle for whatever scraps they can find. And then there are the truly unfortunate, those who lose their shells entirely, left exposed to the harsh elements with nothing between them and certain doom. The phenomenon of hermit crab housing chains has fascinated scientists for years. How do these crabs, with no spoken language and no clear hierarchy, instinctively know how to line up in perfect size order? Some researchers believe it's a combination of chemical signals and visual assessments. Crabs can sense when another crab is growing too big for its shell, which triggers the urge to gather and swap. Others theorize that these chains are a rare example of cooperative behavior in a species that is otherwise highly competitive. But even in these remarkable moments of teamwork, there is no guarantee of fairness. The strongest crabs can and will cut in line, steal shells, and leave others behind. This strange, high-stakes battle for survival isn't just happening on one beach. It's happening all over the world, from the shores of the Caribbean to the remote islands of the Pacific. As humans continue to affect marine environments, shell shortages are becoming an increasing problem for hermit crabs. Pollution and overfishing are reducing the number of available shells, forcing crabs to get creative. In some areas, desperate crabs have been seen using plastic bottle caps, broken glass, and even metal scraps as makeshift homes. But these artificial shells offer little protection and often cause fatal injuries. As we continue to learn more about these incredible creatures, one thing remains clear. In the world of hermit crabs, adaptability is everything. The ability to wait, to strategize, and to seize the right opportunity at the right moment can mean the difference between survival and death. Whether it's forming orderly housing chains or muscling their way to the front of the line, these tiny creatures have mastered the art of real estate warfare. What do you think? Should we admire hermit crabs for their strategic patience, or is it all just a matter of survival of the fittest? Let us know in the comments. And if you love mind-blowing nature stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more deep dives into the most incredible survival tactics in the animal kingdom.